to the entertainment Talking Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what must happen for the New York Giants to make the playoffs in 2020. It's a question I get all the time. I see that Ian Rappaport came out with a report today, and people started asking me, can the Giants make the playoffs? Can the Giants make the playoffs? Well, first thing I'm going to say to you is yes. Any team can make the playoffs. It's football. You know, it's not. This isn't basketball. Before the year starts, every team at least has some kind of glimmer of hope. The New York Giants, of course, have a fresh new team. They have a new coaching staff. They have a second-year quarterback. And they're going to need a lot of things to change for this team to make the playoffs. Obviously, we have not been a very good football team over the last 3 years. I think we've won, 12 combined games or thereabouts in our last 3 years combined. So a lot of things will need to change for the New York Giants to make it. That does not mean that it cannot happen. You go back, you look at the 49ers last year, look at the Jaguars in 2017. There's a number of teams that flipped their fortunes in 1 year. That is the beauty of the NFL. And I'm going to get into some of the things that need to happen for it to even be a possibility for the New York Giants this upcoming season. And I always try to be conservative. I don't want to get your guys' hopes up. I'm going into this year with moderate expectations. If the Giants surprise me, great. But in this video, we're going to talk about what they need to do to surprise me and win 9 or 10 games and get in as a 7th seed or even better in this year's football season. The first thing is obvious, but this goes for all 32 teams in the league. You need luck. You need luck. You need your team to stay relatively healthy, especially the Giants, who don't have the most depth in certain areas. You look at their wide receiver core. You lose a couple of those wide receivers, you're in big trouble. And that's just one position. There's a number of positions on this team where they need to stay healthy. Could they afford some injuries in certain areas? Sure, but they need to stay healthy. But you could say that about every team in the league. You know, you're only as good as your quarterback or your backup quarterback, sometimes the saying is. Right now, New York Giants don't have a very reliable backup quarterback, but that's something that's obvious, and I'm not even going to get into. The New York Giants need a complete identity shift, right? This offseason, the New York Giants have gone heavy in terms of focus on the offensive line in this year's draft, and they will need that offensive line to make a dramatic shift in the way that this offense orchestrates. Now, I know a lot of New York Giants fans want to go out there this year. They see Daniel Jones. They're excited. He had multiple 4-touchdown games. They want to see him sling the rock. And he might be able to do that, and we might put up points. But if you want to make the playoffs and you want this team to be a winning football team, the New York Giants are going to have to run the ball, control the clock, and set up efficient passing opportunities. That has nothing to do with my lack of belief in Daniel Jones. It has everything to do with the fact that I realize that this is a second-year quarterback in a new system and an inexperienced defense that needs to be hidden at some points in the game and needs to be rested, something that the New York Giants have not been able to do for years, and that goes to the time of possession. The turnovers last year were a complete disaster, and I'm going to jump into some of the statistics and give you guys some hope as to maybe the New York Giants can flip that. The other thing I will point out, Joe Judge, the new coach, is definitely an attention-to-detail guy. So what should be cleaned up with that? I would think the little things, like turnovers, like fumbling the football, things of that nature, flipping the field position with special teams. So we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But is there some hope? You're damn right there is. So let's jump into some of the things that I wanted to show you guys. And the first thing, I brought up 2 main keys in this video that absolutely need to change for the Giants to have any chance to make the playoffs last year. First thing the New York Giants need to do is cut down on turnovers. And last year, it's expected. And they haven't been good in this department for years, but last year, it was abysmal. The New York Giants ranked dead last in the NFL. In 2019, the Giants ranked 32nd in the league with a plus-minus of -17 on turnovers. And obviously, a lot of that had to do with the fact that you had a rookie quarterback. He had fumbling issues. He's learning a new playbook, and the Giants turned the ball over way too much. You're not going to win a lot of football games when you're -17 in the turnover department. Obviously, it sets up your opponent for better, field position and better scoring opportunities when you're turning the football over, especially deep in your own end zone. And when you have a subpar defense to begin with, that's only going to hurt it. The good news is, if you go back and look at the course of history over the last 3 drafts, there's been a lot of quarterbacks that were really bad in the turnover department, and they got better over the course of time. I did not list Carson Wentz on here, but even they got better. The Eagles from 16 to 17, I think they were +6. They went to +11 in the year they won the Super Bowl, but it was not as dramatic of an improvement. In 2016, the Rams with Jared Goff, the first-year quarterback, obviously before McVay got there, so a very comparable situation. You had a rookie quarterback, they bring in a new head coach in his second year. In 2016, in his rookie year, they were minus 11 in turnovers. They went to plus 7 in 2017, an 18 turnover, difference in terms of the plus minus, and they were in the top 7 or 8 in the league. Obviously, in 2017, they went to the playoffs. They went 11-5 after a very disappointing year in a team that was very similar in the way that it was constructed to the New York Giants. Obviously, we don't have Aaron Donald, but they had the supreme running back with Gurley. They had the rookie quarterback with Goff. They didn't have the most outstanding weapons at the wide receiver position, so the offense was built very similar, but they got a lot better in 2017, and some of that definitely had to do with the fact that Goff matured, and they improved the offensive line, and they brought in a new head coach with a different philosophy. Next team we're going to look at is the 2017 Texans. Deshaun Watson came there. They were minus 12, which I think was bottom 5 or 6 in the league in 2017. Well, in 2018, they were in the top 3 or 4 in the league with a plus 13. And obviously, 2018, the Texans were a strong team. Deshaun Watson took a step forward. And actually, 2018, they might have been disappointing. But regardless, there was dramatic improvement in terms of the plus-minus in the turnover differential, which goes a long way towards winning football games. And Deshaun Watson maturing definitely helped in that. And I think they did definitely pay more attention to that offensive line. And then finally in 2018, people always compare Lamar Jackson in terms of the fumbling problems to Daniel Jones. Lamar Jackson, I think, had 12 lost fumbles in his rookie year. The Ravens in 2018 went from minus 3 to plus 10. So they were like 20th in the league in turnover differential in his rookie year. They were in the top 3 or 4 in his sophomore year, where they had one of the best, I think they did have the best record in football. So that is something that the New York Giants will absolutely need to do. Now, the plus is, like I said, second-year quarterback. More often than not, quarterbacks get better in their second year. It's why I always say you can't judge a quarterback off his rookie season. Of course, Daniel Jones is learning a new system, but Jared Goff learned a new system with McVay. It still worked out very nicely there. So that definitely gives you some room for hope, not to mention you're bringing in a guy like Joe Judge, an attention-to-detail guy that you would think would help in that department. And if you're able to flip go from minus 17 to even plus 1, plus 2, that would go a long way towards the New York Giants having a more efficient offense, setting their defense up in better situations, and winning the time of possession. Everything goes hand in hand, and that is what is going to be my second point. You need to extend drives to win the time of possession, something that the New York Giants have not been able to do. And obviously, to extend drives, to have longer drives, to keep your defense rested and off the field, and, just have longer drives in general. So when you are forced upon, at least you pin them deeper. The Giants will have to run the ball effectively and have a strong offensive line. And obviously they focused on that. Last year, the New York Giants, they're going to have to do much better in terms of third down conversion rate. Now, if you can get it to 3rd-and-1, 3rd-and-2 situations more often this year, that should only help that. They ranked 21st in the league as they only converted 37% of the time when they were in third down. The top 5 in the league last year all had pretty good seasons outside of the Cowboys, who were rather disappointing. Ravens, best record in the league. Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Eagles made the playoffs. 49ers made the Super Bowl. Those were the top 5 teams. This has nothing to do with the defense, but if you're able to convert at a better rate on third down, it will go a long way towards extending drives and making the New York Giants a playoff contender. The other thing they must do, their average plays per drive in 2019, they ranked 28th in the league at 5.63. Their average minutes per drive, 2 minutes and 31 seconds per drive, which ranked 31st in the entire league. And a major reason for that was, obviously, they weren't converting on third down. They weren't running the ball effectively. Now, of course, the defense has to play better as well, but I think this team specifically will have to set the defense up by controlling the clock and being in the top, at least the top 10 in that department, in plays per drive, things of that nature. And I think Joe Judge knows that. And if you go and look at some of the teams that led the league in running efficiency, meaning that they ran the ball more often than they passed it over the last 3 years. The 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars came into that year with limited expectations, but what they did was they leaned on their ground game to help out their defense, and the New York Giants, in my opinion, have to have the same exact approach. Now, the Giants don't have as much talent on defense that Jaguars team did, but regardless, the way they were able to control the clock certainly went a long way towards winning football games for that team that year. They ranked first in the league in terms of run percentage. They ran the ball 50% of the time. That took them all the way to the AFC title game. The Giants that year ranked 29th in terms of run percentage. In 2018, the Seattle Seahawks ran the ball 52.5% of the time. They obviously made the playoffs. The Giants ranked 28th. The Seahawks came into that year with limited, not much hope. I remember in 2018, people didn't have the highest expectations for the Seahawks, but they relied on that ground attack, and Russell Wilson, in turn, had his most efficient year of his career. 2019, last year, the Baltimore Ravens ran the ball 54% of the time. It led the league. They finished with the best record in football. The 49ers ran the ball the second most time in the league at 51.5%. They went to the Super Bowl. The Giants ranked 30th. So if you're asking me what the New York Giants need to do to make the playoffs, obviously defense is a big factor as well, but they need to set up that inexperienced defense for favorable situations by playing with a lead or at least pinning your opponents deeper more often and not starting with much better field position. Turnovers are by far the biggest key, and if Daniel Jones could do what those other quarterbacks did in their second years and really flip that, I'm not saying you got to be top 5 in the league, but if they could be even league average or slightly above league average and could run the ball at a much better clip and extend drives and get around league average, this team could very well compete for the NFL playoffs next year. That, to me, is the keys to this season in terms of being a competitive football team. They're going to have to establish an identity of a team that wears you down over the course of the game and wins the time of possession and sets their defense up for favorable opportunities. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.